Hi, I'm Vince and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to show you some of the toy cars I had as a child, or at least the ones I had a photograph of. So let's start with the oldest photo. This is me on the left, clutching a car sat next to my mum on our front doorstep. The year would have been around late 1963-1964. I have recollection of being sat there with my mum and of my pattern shirt with the bears on it, but no recall of the car. Maybe it was my older brother's car. I can't determine the model other than it's a 50s car based on the bonnet and front wing style. If you can identify it, let me know in the comments below. Nostalgia nerds may also note the classic glass milk bottles awaiting collection. This is another early photograph with me playing in our back garden with my brother Mark, who shared a love of cars and had as many, if not more than me. Mark's on the right. In this instance, the cars are made of cardboard and folded kits. They represent no particular models and were just a throwaway novelty. I can't recall these either. However, if such a contemporary version still existed, I bet collectors would be excited to have them. The popularity of classic model cars from the 60s and 70s is running high, and some people love to seek out pristine, unused toys still sealed in their original boxes. However, most of us usually tore them out of the packaging as soon as we got home, so they could be spun around the floor carpets and up the side of sofas straight away. Mine were no exception. Think that the more the damage, the more likely the toy was used and loved. I never sought to destroy or deliberately damage any, and never had any interest in colliding them together to create car crashes, so all scuff and tat you can see was just general wear and tear. Another early years photograph shows me holding a model Jeep. I cannot recall this moment, nor the car. My attempts to rip it apart by the windscreen, but do note that the photograph was taken in the rear garden of my parental grandparents. I definitely recall this moment on my 5th birthday when I was thrilled to receive a model of Thunderbird 2, the best of all the Thunderbirds. It was a well-built green plastic model featuring a friction motor, removable and swappable wings, fold-out extended legs, and a detachable container with an opening drop-down door housing a miniature yellow Thunderbird 4. It was brilliant. And yes, I did fit the wings facing conventionally and never noticed that they were actually forward-facing in the original TV series. The next photograph was taken by my father, probably around 1970. It is of my favourite childhood car. A Corgi Toys Volkswagen 1500 Carman Gear Type 34 Razor Edge model number 239, known to me simply as Red Car. As you can see from these later shots, it was indeed red and has an opening bonnet and boot. There was also an additional clear plastic opener covering the rear engine. I presume this was not copied from a glass panel on the actual cars at the time. The faintly seen white numbers on the doors and black 503 on the bonnet are not original, but transfers I added myself. There was a time I got carried away with adding transfers, which were spares from my Airfix plastic model kits, such as this example of a Corgi Toys Chevrolet SS350 Camaro, the model number 338. Knew it wouldn't sport the 309 race numbers. It did have gorgeous metallic gold paint, a detailed red interior, opening doors on massive hinges, fold down seat back for rear access, a removable roof, sliding headlamp protectors and removable wheels operated from underbody hinges which could double up as a set of jacks. The front ones which used to get hung up on carpets spilling off the quick release wheels. Note the racing driver wasn't an original fitment, he was added later, and I was sure it was him who caused the car to roll, breaking the screen. Possibly due to the very compliant suspension this car had due to its removable wheels. The suspension on this next model looked soft, but was only the standard Corgi setup on thin wire cross-axle on the rear. The front benefited from an independent arrangement because the wheels could be steered. This was a Corgi Toys Cooper Maserati F1 Formula 1 racing car model number 159, and it features the originally supplied racing driver, which is just as well given he was the steering control, operated by pivoting him left or right accordingly. I like the control this gave the car in use, and the styling is near to the best Formula 1 versions there ever was. I preferred the slightly earlier style with low set rear spoiler as seen on this real life 1970 Tyrrell 001 Formula 1 Ford Cosworth racing car, seen at the National Motor Museum. However, if your preferred racing style is closed wheel, then I also had that covered with some other toys I had, including this Corgi Toys Chevrolet Corvette Stingray Coupe Lazy Bones model number 337. Despite what it looks like, I have not added any extra decals. This was how they were in the 60s. Again, this was a loved and well-used car because of its natural character and fun name. See it again here with two other Corgi Whiz Wheels race cars. Whiz Wheels were an attempt by Corgi to kick back against the introduction and popularity of Hot Wheels models. They ditched the more realistic rubber tyres for hard plastic tyres, which could be moulded into more intricate designs and spun more freely, but took away their character and feel and no doubt were cheaper to produce. In this picture are two Whiz Wheels drag cars, the Wild Honey Dragster Hot Rod model number 164, complete with wrecked plastic roof panel, helping to show off the interior, and the Commuter Dragster number 161, which I liked because of its unusual style, a lovely red metallic finish. But I didn't use it much because of its limited operation. It was designed only to accelerate down a short straight road and failed to easily manoeuvre in its toy environment, which was between chair legs. Manoeuvring wasn't an issue for my next model, the Corgi Toys Volkswagen Type 1 1200 Volkswagen Beetle East African Safari set with Rhinoceros, model set number 256. Again, the decal, like the Rhino, was original. It featured an opening bonnet, which was always awkward to pry open due to the beak-like shape, and an opening boot to expose the rear engine. Inside the front bonnet lay a detailed silver-painted set of wellies and a coil of rope wound around a little grey push button, which I think was designed to aid spring and open the bonnet. But the key feature was the roof-mounted spare tyre, clearly missing on my well-used toy. Turning it would operate the front wheel steering and it was a delight to use, except when pushing it along a straight line, as you had to hold the roof tyre all the time, which is too tiny for comfort. The Rhino was in much better condition, as it wasn't played with so much, but I did amass quite a collection of animals over time, as seen in this grouping of some of my favourite ones, plus some chickens. Highlights are the ostrich, which featured a hinge at the neck base, allowing a low pecking motion. The most expensive model, the bison, and a cute collie dog. Some animals I had came with the cars I had, such as this Corgi Toys Dodge Key Fargo transporter truck model number 484 with beast carrier model number 58 cows. This was a nice quality model with its opening bonnet showcasing a bright engine and drop-down tailgate, which by the time of photographing had lost the top section, plus some cute young characterful bovines. However, it was clearly a US variant, so lost out on familiarity here in the UK. My brother and I also own some Corgi Toys Chipperfield circus toys, which are highly collectible now. Mark had the more impressive long articulated horse box, and I the Land Rover with elephant and cage on trailer gift set, model set GS/19, plus giraffe and sea lion. The car was modelled on a Land Rover Series 2A and had a removable rear top. The trailer was articulated at the front axle and was used to tow much more than the elephant box, with tow eye and opening doors. The giraffe had absconded from another of Mark's models, the stubby Chipperfield Circus Giraffe Transport Truck model number 503. No idea where the sea lion came into it. It's the same with this next model set, the Corgi Toys Citroen DS Safari Alpine Rescue Car set number 513, with all accessories including the Alpine skier, his faithful St Bernard dog complete with red beer barrel collar, and all his ski kit including his insubstantial floppy skis and poles which would clip on the roof rack, along with his outrageously gold-plated toboggan. The no idea where it came from piece is his ill-advisedly dressed blonde girlfriend, holding open the boot of the Series 1 DS. Research shows she came with the Chipperfield Circus Performing Poodle Chevrolet Impala model set number 511, but I have no recollection of either of us having this model, nor indeed any poodles. An official pairing did come with this concept car, the Corgi Toys Chevrolet Astra 1 experimental car, model number 347. The elegantly dressed passengers rose up stylishly with the opening of the rear half of the dramatically metallic blue painted car with gold bonnet. It was classy and desirable, and I often imagined myself being the tuxedo wearing driver taking his beautiful partner in our gold lame dress to a cultured party in some faraway mansion. However, I never thought myself in the position of Farmer Giles in his Fordson tractor. He was far too agricultural for my liking and way too old with his white hair and wrinkled forehead. This was my Corgi Toys Fordson Power Major Tractor, model number 55, featuring huge rear tyres with jarring orange wheel centres, steering operated by the wheel which was awkward to get at with the old git in the way, and had some intricate metalwork hanging off the rear, which would have operated specialist machinery I didn't possess. The working mechanisms of my Corgi Toys Land Rover breakdown service model number 417S was much easier to operate, being a simple crane hook, raised and lowered via the turnable side-mounted spare wheel. The car was the same casting as the Chipperfield Circus Land Rover Series 2A already seen, but supplied a few years apart. The other articulations were a swivelling roof lamp and removable rear truck bed cover. The other emergency vehicle I had was this Dinky Toys Ford Transit Police Accident Unit van, model number 287. Although the only visible indication of its police credentials that remains is the little blue light on the top. When new, bold police lettering adorned the upper side panel along with accident unit underneath. The top mounted aerial has survived along with a slide opening driver's door and big hinged rear doors. Also surviving are a few cones and a pop-up road sign upon which you can see I've had to recreate the printing. The original two were white on blue signs saying police accident and police stop. Note this is my first mention of a Dinky Toys because I tended to favour Corgi models with their softer tyres. However, my oldest model is a Dinky, inherited from my grandfather. This Dinky Toys Trojan 1500 weight van, model number 450, probably dated pre-1956, which is when Corgi introduced plastic windows. This was originally supplied with post office decals on the side panel, but they were worn off by the time I received it. The wartime D transfer on the door was a later addition by me. Most of these were branded with an Esso logo, and the post office version would have been much rarer. I believe it may have been specially produced for the employees, as my great-grandfather, grandfather and even my father were in the post office, or its later reincarnations. It was a simple model with no underside, no windows, no opening doors and no jewelled headlamps. It was, however, strong as an ox, built of solid metal with rounded corners and strong A-pillars, so stood up well to being stood on, as I can personally testify to, albeit when I was about 7. Unlike this slightly crushed husky model number 9 Buick Electra 225 Riviera police car. I can't recall squishing it myself, but I do remember when it had a bright red roof light. I like the styling of this little model apart from the unrealistic wheels and silly yellow interior. But I suppose, like many, if it was a more realistic black, the detail may be lost, particularly on these small-scaled cars. I didn't have many Husky toy cars. Husky were an offshoot of Corgi, launched to compete with Matchbox model cars. I had many of these over time, but only seemed to have a few of the lorries at the end, including this charming Leslie Matchbox Bedford tipper truck model number 3. Matchbox toys were so called because they came packaged in small boxes around the size of a matchbox. They had solid plastic wheels and no underside or interior details. At least this truck had a working tipper back and hinged tailgate. This Matchbox model number 10D Leyland pipe truck lorry had no such articulation, being a fixed bed lorry, but did have plastic windows and a number of plastic pipes supplied, which could all be strung together to form a very long tube, should that be your desire in life. The biggest issue was the scale, because this 8-wheeler was the same length as the 6-wheeled tipper truck just shown. They were both Matchbox size, as were the cars, so all looked wrong next to each other. It was fine when the models were of similar sized real-life vehicles, such as this group of trucks. These were all Leslie Matchbox models. A yellow Dodge crane truck model number 63 with its swivel-based crane arm with free swinging hook. A green windowless 8-wheel crane model number 30, also featuring a swivel-based crane arm and a free swinging hook, plus the aforementioned Leyland pipe truck. These construction toys gave a certain amount of play possibilities, but manipulating the cranes to offload the pipes was fiddly, when it's so much easier to pick the things up between your own fingers. The scale problems raised their head again in this next lineup of these lorries, with the addition of an oversized blue articulated truck cab on the right. Doing an image search, it appears to be a Matchbox Guy Warrior tractor from their king-size range model number M8. It would have originally been supplied with a 2-storey car transporter, articulated trailer, but I cannot recall owning one of these. The only thing that makes me doubt this is the fact that my one appears to have the name MAN at the front as opposed to a number plate. Maybe this was a rare unicorn model. Unlike this London set, which were popular at the time and I think still sold in tourist trap shops along Oxford Street now. This is a perfect example of how scale can ruin an attempt to create realism. I suppose I could have positioned them all at varying distances to correct this in the photography, but I was recording these shots for prosperity rather than creating dioramas. It's a Corgi Toys gift set number 11 featuring an AEC Routemaster London bus model number 468, Whiz Wheels Austin FX4 taxi model number 418 and a Whiz Wheels Morris Minor 3396/69 plus signalling policeman. This is my favourite style of bus and a well loved and played with toy. So here is a shot of the other side for you. However, the taxi and mini were spoiled by being Whiz Wheels models, so suspended on non-compliant plastic tyres. The police officer himself is mounted on a huge base incorporating a swivel stand, presumably because the designers thought turning the base itself would be unrealistic, unlike his inability to fit on the bus. Also, as you can see, I tried to jazz the mini up a bit by painting on yellow Go Faster stripes and the number 70 for some reason, but it didn't make me like it anymore. The other mini I had was much more loved, as you can tell from its condition. This was an early toy of mine. It was great to manoeuvre about on the floor with its soft rubber wheels and child's grip-sized shape. It was a Corgi Toys 1968 Morris Mini Cooper Magnifique model number 334. It featured a glorious green metallic finish, opening doors and bonnet, folding front seat backs, jewelled yellow headlamps and, unseen, a plastic sunroof with sliding cover, the colour of a striped yellow and red beach deck chair. I added the red paint colour to the doors, bonnet and roof and blue roundel in a fit of thinking it was a World War II warplane. I did have a World War II warplane, a dinky Junkers Ju-87 Stuka dive bomb airplane complete with quick release bomb which could be fitted with a cap to create a bang on contact, but sadly did not take a photograph of this because you can't take a photograph of a noise. Also didn't record the Stuka. Unlike my World War II era motorbike, a Britain's model Triumph British Army Dispatch Rider model number 9698 motorcycle. This had a jewelled headlamp, plastic seat, centre stand and a steerable front end, provided you could wrestle the bars from the grip of the rider, who peculiarly had a removable crash helmet. The final military model was my Toy Airfix Military Series Alvis Stalwart model number 1807. This was a large plastic model of a simple moulded construction and no decoration other than the stickers. Its rear bed was large and tough enough to hold a brick or a small child's foot. Had I had another, they could have acted as makeshift roller skates. Its toughness and durability meant it was an ideal toy to play with in the garden. As you can see, it suffered no real damage from being played with in this environment. This next model would not have fared so well in such tough conditions. A Matchbox Cars 1906 Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost model number Y10. It was more of an ornament than a toy, and I was older when I had it, so treated it a bit more like an adult would. In other words, it sat on its own with no interference by sticky mitts or enthusiastic fiddling. Unlike my well-fiddled Comma set. This 5-piece set with 2 vans and 3 interchangeable bodies was the Corgi Constructor set, 0.75 tonne chassis gift set number GS-24 and went well with my beloved Corgi Toys Holiday Camp Special Boss model number 508. The red and white vans could become a panel van using the red body, an ambulance using the white body with blue windows and a roof light, or a milk float using the blue open body with a set of milk bottles. Near endless possibilities. Well, technically 6. The Comma bus also had its detailing, including opening rear doors, a removable top cover under which were there 2 delightfully tiny opening suitcases. The other unique features was on the red van. Note the front lamps are clear and the pair of small plastic discs on the roof. This was a crude fibre optic system. Hold your fingers over the roof discs and light would stop being transmitted through the top to shine out the front headlamps, mimicking them being switched off. However, it's not intuitive, and the headlamps would only be of use in the dark if a light source was applied from above, and by definition, that's not the dark. There were no such working lights on my toy Matchbox Superfast Porsche 910 model number 68, partly because they are recessed on this car. This was another different scale vehicle, bigger than a Matchbox but smaller than a traditional Corgi or Dinky, and had the hard, free spinning wheels. A nice quality little car, but lacking any features to add interest. Unlike this next model, my Dinky Toys De Tomaso Mangusta model number 187. Although painted a Barbie pink and white, colour its shape, opening features and impressive sized mid-mountain engine lifted it enormously. As you can see, it was well used due to its low slung profile and sturdy weight, which is why it was worn and last seen in need of a bit of renovation. The same could be said of my Budgie Toys Sedona diesel truck model number 208. This was an early model, probably made in the 1940s, a toy that originated from my grandfather, so it was probably my father's when he was a child. It was around matchbox size and would have had an articulated trailer, possibly Esso branded, leading me neatly into my next toy. This petrol pump wasn't an Esso version. As you can see, its model is a shell and originally had a matching fuel nozzles with hoses on either side. I was fascinated by its reality and detail, but sadly had limited play appeal. Unlike this pair of dune buggies, they were not a set, as can be seen from the scale difference. My favourite one was the first I had, the blue Corgi Toys Whizwheels GP Beach Buggy model number 381. Here it is, missing its black steering wheel and a pair of red fin surfboards which attach to the white removable rooftop. You may note that the surfboards had been missing for a while because the L-shaped clamps had been filed away. The Army Transfer is another of my later additions. I like this car for its looks, with its bright chromed oversized engine hanging out the rear, the way the Whizwheels suited its proportions, and the way it rode my floor and carpets. The orange one, a later purchase, was a Matchbox Speed King Sandcat Dune Buggy, model number K47. It's missing its black roof and rising twin exhaust tailpipes, and again is defaced by a transfer, F38, which was spare from an airfix kit of a Leander-class frigate which I recall building. The oversized, chromed, menacing cat head on the bonnet was an original fitment, but like its wheels seem ill-proportioned, so despite the bigger scale, lovely metallic orange paint with yellow flecks, it couldn't make it more likeable than the Corgi buggy. This seemed to be a general feeling, the nostalgia of an older toy outweighing the niceness of a newer one. This is illustrated by the last toy I recall receiving as a present as a child. My Dinky Toys Johnson Road Sweeper model number 451. As you can see by the condition, it looks closer to a collector's model than a played with toy. Okay, it was a lorry, so not as much fun as a car, but it was a large expensive model and had bags of functionality. The detailing was as good as any, and the big body was great to hold and move about. The doors opened and were supported by twin hinges, so less obtrusive. The top-mounted hose could swing into action and be extended by the soft grey plastic extension pipe clipped to the right-hand side. And the right side mounted brush span around when the lorry was moved, powered by a spring chain driven off the rear axle, which also spun a horizontal brush slung underside the vehicle. The only issue being that I was about 14 when it was bought for me by my mum, and my toy car playing days were already over by then. This selection didn't represent all the cars I owned, just the ones I decided to keep for prosperity, although they were also eventually sold. Many more were lost to time, buried in the garden, or nicked by my neighbour. However, it wasn't the last of my model car purchases or acquisitions. The first one I had as an adult was this Corgi Toys Ford Escort Mark III RS1600 model number 453. It was bought for me by my wife Linda after I'd started to paint a picture of one, but was criticised for getting the proportions wrong. She felt this model might help. I never did complete the painting, but we did keep the car for a while. I also bought, meticulously built and carefully painted a plastic model kit of a Vincent Black Shadow motorbike. I was named after such a bike, so I had this as a cherished, detailed ornament, which lived in our study. Linda's father made the neat wooden mahogany stand that it was mounted on. However, it wasn't the only model I built as an adult. I also received this model radio-controlled car from Linda as a birthday present. It was a Tamiya Avante RC racing buggy, and building it gave me a greater understanding of suspension components and motor engineering. It was phenomenally fast with its tuned motor and four-wheel drive through grippy off-road tyres. Great fun for 10 minutes at a time before one of the frequent battery changes. I did go to an informal track meet once with it, but the rest of the competitors were experienced racers with tatty stripped down cars, tuned to within an inch of their abilities and controlled like they'd been driving them for decades. My car was also a delightful model and was stripped and cleaned after any outdoor use. We also acquired 3 small models as gifts buying bucket loads of petrol. These comprised a model Mercedes-Benz CLK class C209 model in blue, a yellow Porsche 997 first phase Carrera 911, and this Mercedes-Benz SL 5th Gen R230 model. They were matchbox size, but I do not recall who they were made by. Free gifts of buying fuel require enormous quantities to achieve, and you would need to run real versions of all 3 of these sports cars to earn them. Luckily, we were working as drivers for a car dealership at the time, so I had the need to fill various cars daily. However, we did pay for these Formula 1 race car models for the sheer pleasure of owning these impressive ornaments. The 2000 Jaguar Cosworth R1 with Eddie Irvine in the hot seat, and the 2001 Williams BMW FW23 seating Juan Pablo Montoya. They were incredibly detailed and had articulated steering as shown on the Jaguar. They were chosen because at the time we owned both a Jaguar and a BMW. Not Formula 1 race cars, I note. Now I'll be doing a YouTube video on these cars at some point. So subscribe and click notifications to be advised when this happens. Which leads me on to the only model I had of a car that I had at the same time. The Jaguar XJ8 4.0 designation X308, although specification details were slightly different. The wheels on the model being of another style, the interior a lighter colour, and not featuring the grille and steering wheel fitted to our car. The model came on this base and it was never prized off, so remaining an ornament. Other ornaments included these three dramatic dragon riding motorcyclists, casted with some heavy metal and incorporating jewels that reminded us of the rebels we were as bikers, so sat proudly on our mantelpiece in the lounge. Because of the material used, the detailing was mostly pin sharp and characterisation charmingly engaging. We also had this pewter model cast Norton Manx model, which Linda's parents bought us for our 25th wedding anniversary. It's the only one of all the models we still have, kept for sentimental reasons. But I'll leave you with the most unusual in all this varied collection, and it's this charming little vintage car styled whiskey bottle. Not a good advert to discourage drinking and driving, on the grounds that crashing a glass car would be a nightmare. These toys and ornaments that I have shown you were mainly photographed because they survived my childhood and were being sold off when Linda and I underwent a major home downsize. Sold to parents for their own children, or probably collectors who have a fondness for these classic miniatures. It is for this reason that I no longer own any of these models apart from the Norton Manx motorbike, and certainly no associated packaging, so there's no need to ask if I still have some and want to part with them. However, please feel free to comment on your own similar toys and experiences. I'd also be interested to know if you have any that spiked an interest in you, or which ones are your favourites. Thanks for watching through to the end. If you enjoyed what you've seen, please add a like for me. Bye for now.